Sega had seen huge success with the Sega Genesis, and they thought that they could run the whole 32-bit market with the Sega Saturn, only for it to fail so bad. So bad, in fact, that it didn't even break 10 million units sold worldwide. And now, that's just embarrassing. Sega had to do some massive damage control on this, as faith in this company was dwindling fast. And Sega would put all their faith into their next console that would be called the Sega Dreamcast. Work on the Dreamcast had started in 1997 by a team led by Hideki Sato. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. The main focus was at cost reduction through the use of off-the-shelf components. This would initially prove wise, as they were able to make a very nice looking and functional console that could display graphics not seen by any other company at the time. Now, I have actually seen conflicting information on this, as well researching that work was also led by a separate team within IBM that would show ideas to Sato, and they would work under a code name called Black Belt. The Dreamcast would finally be revealed to the public May 21st, 1998 in Tokyo. Sega held a public competition actually to even name the console, and considered over 5,000 different entries before choosing the name Dreamcast. The Dreamcast would hit store shelves November 27, 1998 in Japan, and North America on 9/9/99, and would be the first of the 6 generations of consoles to launch, although in the long run it wouldn't help them. In Japan, the Dreamcast would launch with 4 titles, as for here in North America, we would see a whopping 19 launch titles featuring games like Sonic Adventure, Soul Calibur, and NFL 2K. Which, in my mind, is actually one of the best NFL games to date. This was actually an incredible launch, as all these 19 games would have such a good variety to pick from. There was something literally for everybody. The controller would have these weird handles that were actually super comfortable, and would have 2 triggers, 4 face buttons, a D-pad, and 1 analog stick. One pretty uncomfortable analog stick at that, as it's just hard plastic and not comfortable to put your thumb on for long periods of play whatsoever. The cord also sticks out at the bottom, which, I mean, I kinda get, but it is a weird design choice, but was done this way to make room probably for the VMU. And the VMU is the memory card for the system. They would display unique images for whatever game you were playing on the little LCD screen, or you could even take them out and play little mini games, or you could even connect them together to play little multiplayer games together, or even just swap your high scores from other games together as well. This was actually super unique, and I kind of like the idea of the VMU, even if it wasn't insanely popular. The console itself would have 4 controller ports, which is great. It would also have a pop-up lid for the discs, a power and open button. It would also have a broadband modem for online games. This was mainly used for the popular Phantasy Star Online game that I actually never really played, but it looks really cool from what I've seen. The console was definitely ahead of its time, and it saw good initial sales, selling even 500,000 units within its first 2 weeks. This was actually better than the launch of the PlayStation and the N64. But would the sales continue? Well, I think we all know. The Dreamcast, like the PlayStation, used the CD format, and unfortunately for Sega, that actually made it very easy to burn. I definitely saw more burn CDs out in the wild than the regular Dreamcast games. But nevertheless, it definitely looked like Sega was back. Though, as the Dreamcast definitely had legs to stand on, unfortunately, the success would be very short-lived, as Sony would announce the PS2, and sales would plummet. Sega did everything in their power to hang on, but it was too little, too late. Or was it? I actually don't think the Dreamcast failing was in any way the fault of Sega themselves. The PS2 was just leagues ahead of it by having the DVD player that was built in, and nevertheless, the Dreamcast would only last 2 years. Well, less than 2 years really, but basically 2 years. It would be discontinued in 2001, and Sega moving forward would change direction to be a software company for the other consoles, which was really weird to see. This would allow us to see games like Sonic, Super Monkey Ball, Crazy Taxi, and more being put onto other consoles, which, in hindsight, it's not a bad thing. It was definitely sad to see it go, but it just had the misfortune of going against the giant that was the PS2. And at the end of its life, the console would have sold only more than 9 million units, obviously finishing last in that generation, but that does not mean it didn't put up a valiant effort. Now, I actually really liked the Dreamcast. It had a lot of fun games, and the games all looked really beautiful. And it is a shame that it went the way that it did, as some of my favorite games for this console were Ready to Rumble, WWF Royal Rumble, Crazy Taxi, Sonic Adventure, and my favorite way to play the original Spider-Man game compared to its PS1 or N64 counterparts, as it just looks so much more beautiful and runs way smoother. But at the end of the day, the Dreamcast could not save Sega. The Dreamcast, however, is being kept alive by the homebrew community, as it is still seeing releases by homebrew to this day, which is insane, but I absolutely love to see that happening to a console like this one. And that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to check out some of my other retrospectives that I have on this channel. And remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.